sometimes. But I think if you want to know what Arnold Schwarzenegger has done wrong, then the economy speaks for itself. This crisis in our state, it's not just something that we brought upon ourselves, it's something that our leaders have to take responsibility for. And if you think Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't have the backbone to implement plans that Meg Whitman does, then, I mean, maybe you need to go see his movies. I mean, he's a pretty hardcore guy. He's tried to impose his personality on the legislature, and that hasn't worked. And if Meg Whitman thinks that because she's a CEO, she can do any better, I don't think that's true.
When we're talking about budget reform here, it's important to realize that we're not just going to be able to cut things or make government more efficient. It's going to have to be a combination of both. And so first and foremost, Meg Whitman is going to institute a strict spending cap, and she's also going to reform she's going to utilize technology to make government more efficient. Government is way behind Silicon Valley in that sense, is they haven't learned how to do more with less, and that's what she's going to bring to Sacramento and institute there.
So Jerry Brown wants to end pension use in our state. I think it's something that both sides want to address. Jerry Brown was talking about a two-tier pension system back when he was governor, and the plan was definitely forward-thinking for its time, and he continues to fight for that two-tier system today. And this means that state workers can be required to contribute to their own pension, which relieves a little bit of the burden from the state, and an increase from 9%, so they pay now, to 10% would actually save the state about $100 million. And Meg Whitman also wants to reform pensions, but she also plans to leave police, firefighters, and corrections officers out of her pension reform plan. And because corrections officers actually represent one of the fastest growing parts of California's budget, exempting them from pension reform really just sidesteps the problem and doesn't address it directly.
Jerry Brown definitely is a strong advocate for diversity. As governor, he appointed more women and minorities to state positions. He marched with Cesar Chavez, and now he has an immigration policy that wants to bring in people from outside the state and make them feel like they're part of the state, part of this country, and not just unwanted people. Meg Whitman has said that she supports a guest worker program, but not a path to citizenship. She said it's okay for immigrants to come and work in agriculture and hospitality, but that we can't promise them something that we've promised immigrants for hundreds of years, which is citizenship in the United States.
Meg Whitman absolutely supports a comprehensive immigration solution, but I don't think that's what the question actually was about. I would say that diversity, Meg Whitman views it absolutely as a strength, but we are in serious danger of losing our diversity as the state of California. Middle-class families simply cannot put up with a lot of the high tax burden and poor business climate that's taking away their jobs in California. So I would argue to keep the great diversity that we have both exemplified here at UC Berkeley and in the state of California, we have to improve our business climate.
I believe Jerry Brown's position is that he supports the three strikes law, but the offenses all have to be of a violent nature. He doesn't think that stealing something should be your third strike, and that's why he's sent to prison. I believe that's correct. And also, Meg Whitman likes to talk about how Jerry Brown is soft on crime, all this stuff, but as mayor of Oakland, the crime actually went down 13%. He increased the police force by 25%. So I think Jerry Brown has a record of innovative solutions when dealing with crime, and he can do that as governor today.
I'll just say, first of all, that he appointed, during his governorship, since we like to talk about Jerry Brown's record as governor, he appointed a Chief Justice to the California Supreme Court named Rose Byrd, who succeeded in basically ending the executions of just about every single death penalty case in California during the time she served on the bench. Meg Whitman does support the three strikes law. She will defend it as governor. She will be a tough on crime governor. She believes that ultimately the most important thing that government can do is keep us safe. Meg Whitman believes strongly that we should know, where money is coming from in elections. It's something that is fundamental to democracy. She believes that we have to know who is giving the money, so we know who is likely to try to exert influence on the candidate when they get in office. Now, I suspect this discussion is going to turn into a discussion about Meg Whitman's self financing, so I will briefly address that. I will say that Meg Whitman's has not bought this election. If you read the polls, that's obvious. And so you can't buy a governor's race in California, but what she is doing is she is making sure that she will be basically beholden to no one when she gets elected as governor. Jerry Brown's campaign has been funded almost entirely by public employee unions. And if he wants to run for re-election again in 2014, guess who he's going to need to run his campaign?
I like how I don't even need to argue against Meg Whitman because you guys are doing it for me. Yeah, it's true. The polls haven't really changed very much, despite Meg Whitman having spent $163 million of her own money on this campaign, which is more than any other candidate has spent on their own campaign in all of U.S. history, more than even Michael Bloomberg in New York. But I think the assertion that Jerry Brown is going to be beholden to unions is just ridiculous. The unions have spent, by Meg Whitman's campaign's best estimates, $20 million on Brown. He's also raised $30 million of his own money, mostly from individuals and businesses, as well as from the unions.
Meg's position on Proposition 8, she personally believes that we should have civil unions, but she does believe that term marriage should still be between a man and a woman. Just a quick word, I'm sure, about the appeal of Proposition 8, which I'm sure will come up. Meg Whitman believes that when the voters pass a constitutional amendment, they deserve to have their elected officials defend it. There's a proposition on the ballot right now, Proposition 25. I would wonder what the feelings of our opposition would be if a governor got into office, there was a lawsuit filed against Proposition, assuming that Proposition 25 passes, and the governor and attorney general simply refused to defend it.
Jerry Brown, as Attorney General, has taken the position that he should uphold what the Constitution says first. He believes, and a federal judge ruled, that Proposition 8 violates the Equal Protection Clause, so he has absolutely no reason to defend it in court. And furthermore, Proposition 8 is just, it's just a discriminatory law, and it's violating, equal protection. It's stripping Californians of their basic rights. If Meg Whitman wants to pay taxpayer money to defend Proposition 8, then she is really just harming her constituents. And I'm not sure I quite understand why you brought up Prop 25. If that was to pass, it would not be a violation of the federal Constitution. It's about the California budget, which is under California law. California is in a crisis, but it's not just a budget crisis, it's a leadership crisis. And the last 7 years of Governor Schwarzenegger and Republican rule have been disastrous for our state. We've seen later and later budgets, we've seen disinvestment in education, and we've seen an inability to tackle California's most pressing problems. And that seems like something we can both agree on. We literally elected a pro bodybuilder to this office, and even he couldn't muscle his way through the budget process. In business, no matter how much you spend on marketing, if you're selling a shoddy product, no one's going to buy it. Meg Whitman has spent millions trying to sell California